Hello everyone, how are you all doing? Today we are going to learn about Azure DNS zones. We will learn about Azure public DNS zones, which are also called as just DNS zones. And also we will learn about Azure private DNS zones, which are called as Azure private DNS zones. We'll not be just looking into the Azure side of things. We'll also see how to configure these things or how to link these things with a real hosting or real domain provider, such as Namecheap, GoDaddy, etc. We'll be using a Namecheap for our demo today. So I will try to cover most of the prerequisites also that is needed. If you have any doubts at all, just raise your hand and then you can ask all of your doubts. And if the doubts are not related to whatever is happening right now, then you can wait till the end and then I will help you with all of the queries, even if it is not related to today's session, including how to download the labs that are being discussed as part of the session. So let us get started. Let me share my screen. Let me ask you this thing. What is DNS? Can you confirm if you went through the prerequisite links that I shared as part of the invite? Okay, the first link was about DNS. So my notes on what is DNS and what was the second link? It was a deep dive into DNS record types. So there are different record types. So there is one record type called a record. So a record is the cornerstone of DNS records. It connects a domain name to its corresponding IPv4 address. For instance, when you type example.com, the a record tells your browser the IP address where to find example.com. So this is the main functionality, right? We have some web server, someplace like in Azure Cloud. And then what we have to do, we have to connect to that server when we type our domain name. So that is a core functionality of DNS, right? You have something like google.com or buddytutor.com or cloudrix.com. And when you type that, it should reach the web server. Web servers will have some IP address. With DNS, we can do a lot more than just forwarding the or mapping the domain name with IP address. So that is why we have additional record types. So CNAME can be used to create a subdomain, and MX records are for mails. So whenever somebody is sending to help@cloudrix.com or heartinetbuddytutor.com, it has to reach mail server, right? It could be Google G Suite or Microsoft 365. So for that, we configure MX records. So in case of Google G Suite, Google will provide certain details that we will have to add here. In case of Microsoft 365, Microsoft will provide some information that we'll have to add here. And that makes sure that, okay, the request will reach the intended server. Similarly, we have NS records, name server records. So all of these other records like A or AAS, CNAME, and there are many others also. So all of these records can be configured in a DNS zone. The DNS zone can be within a provider such as Namecheap. So if you go Namecheap, so Namecheap, GoDaddy, those are the popular places from where you can purchase a domain name. So you can search for a domain name, select whatever domain name you want, and then just purchase it. And once you purchase it, you will get a domain control panel. So let me open a domain control panel. So once you purchase a domain name, it does not matter whether it is .com or .ca. So you will get a control panel and then you can see all of your domains here. So buddytutor.ca is a domain name I purchased. And you can go to manage. So this has nothing to do with Azure Cloud. Okay. This has nothing to do with Azure Cloud. Here, by default, it will be showing you Namecheap basic DNS. Once I make it Namecheap basic DNS, which is the default, then if I go to advanced DNS, here I can add all of these records, a record, text record. This is kind of the first step. When you are building a new website, you need to decide on a domain name. You have to search for its availability. And if it is available, purchase it. Once you purchase, you will get this control panel access. And the steps will be similar with other providers such as GoDaddy also, or any other provider. And you come here, you add all of these records. So a record, we know it is for IP address. So what is the need for a TXT record? You're all Azure engineers, so you can answer from the perspective of Azure Cloud. So every organization who is using Azure will be having some domain name, right? Buddytutor.com or trainso.com or cloudrix.com, some domain name, right? And the employees will have a domain extension like hardinetbuddytutor.com. And if we need to log into our Azure portal using those credentials and manage Azure resources, then that domain has to be first verified in our tenant. And that verification happens through the use of a text record, because Azure wants to verify that, okay, I am not providing the domain name of somebody else. So Azure will give me a text record and I'll have to come and add here. And Azure will query and then see if it is the same. So that is one way of verification. All of those things like a record, text record, MX record, everything we can configure here. So in that case, our DNS zone is here. But today our goal is to learn how to do these things on Azure Cloud, right? So in that case, what we will do, we can go to Azure. And before that, as prerequisites, let us create one or two virtual machines. If you have any doubt, you can ask. While the virtual machine is getting deployed, we can go ahead with other tasks. So subscription, resource group, a virtual machine name. Let us keep it simple. We are not worried about availability. If you are interested in availability, you can check the availability recipes. I'll show towards the end how to download all the recipes. So image, for now we'll stick with the Windows Server Azure Edition. If you want to access using RDP, then you can open this. If you are using Bastion, you don't have to open the RDP ports. And if you are hosting a web server, then you can use HTTP. So all of these things, if you want to practice, there are detailed labs for each and every scenario you can imagine. And if there are no labs for the scenario you imagine, you have to just let the team and then they will create it. Okay, then we can go to this. Don't need a premium. Why to waste money? Okay, networking. So we have to select a virtual network and then a subnet within that virtual network. We learned about subnets, virtual networks, and all in the networking session. Here it is not very relevant. You have to just select. And if you don't have any virtual network, Azure will give you the option to create it right here. And then I need a public IP if I need to do RDP from the internet. And also if I need to reach from internet. Public DNS zones are mainly for reaching from the internet, right? For a public website. If it is a private DNS zone, it is within Azure Cloud. So you don't have to worry about public IP unless you need to log into that machine using RDP. But in those cases, Bastion is a better approach. Yeah, a good practice. Management, we will leave everything as is. Monitoring, we will leave everything as is. So for this, there is a separate module networking, separate module monitoring, separate module. AZ104 covers most of these different tabs through different modules. Then we can add tags if we want, and finally review plus create. So there is a question in the Q&A. Okay, so the text TXE we get from Azure and then adding to the DNS settings, what exactly it is verifying and how? It is just verifying whether we own that domain name, because the username and password of that domain control panel will be only with whoever is owning that domain name. So if I am adding a domain name, okay, so the validation is complete and let us create. So let it start the deployment. So deployment is progress. So if you come to Entra ID, so if you search for Entra, Microsoft Entra ID, and if you come to custom domain names, so whatever domain names I'm adding here, Azure has to verify that, okay, it is my domain name. Azure will provide something that I need to enter into the domain control panel. So only the person with the username and password and even the MFA associated with that can log into that control panel and make these changes. So if I can do all of these things, Azure will assume that, okay, it is my domain. Let us create one more VM, because for demo we might need one more VM. Same steps. Let us review and create. Once the deployment process start, we can actually go to the different screens. So let us quickly go to the first virtual machine, and then if you go to connect, you have different options. You can connect using native RDP, just download RDP file and then connect, or you can connect using Bastion. So first time when you try to connect using Bastion, so Bastion is per virtual network. So this virtual network does not have a Bastion net. So if you want to connect to any virtual machines within this virtual network, we have to deploy Bastion in that virtual network. You can just click deploy Bastion. It will take a lot of time, more than virtual machine. So it will first add a subnet for Bastion Gold Azure Bastion subnet, and then it will deploy Bastion within that subnet. Bastion is a concept where Bastion will have public access. You log into Bastion, and from Bastion you log into a machine without public IP address. Okay, I just wanted to show that option also. And now let us go back and then do the main things. As I mentioned in the intro, whenever you see just DNS zones in Azure Cloud, it is public or private. Public, right? Let us go to DNS zones. Okay, both of our virtual machines are created and running. So in DNS zones, we can click on create. And what is our domain name? So you can come here. So what is the domain name we purchased? buddytutor.ca. We will use that here. So DNS zone editor, I'm just leaving the defaults. So this resource group location doesn't matter for our demos. It is mostly for a compliance reason. It is just telling that, okay, this resource group is located in Canada Central, but our virtual machines are located in East US. It does not matter. Even if a resource group is in Canada Central, resources can all be in other regions. So why is this resource group location relevant? So this resource group will have some metadata, right? Name and other information. So those information will be stored in the resource group location. And if your compliance says that everything has to be in one region, then you can make sure your resource group also is residing within that region for compliance purposes. So let us click on create. So go to resource. So here you can see a few things, right? And important thing is when we created this DNS zone here, Azure provided us with few name servers. Here you have under DNS management, you have record sets. Whatever record sets we saw in Namecheap, right? A record or other record sets, whatever you saw in this blog post, right? So all of those things can also be configured here. So here you can click on add and then you can configure all of those things here. Our goal is to configure the DNS zone completely on Azure Cloud, but our domain name was purchased from Namecheap, right? And we need to tell that, okay, don't do any configuration or advanced DNS here. We do everything on Azure Cloud, just point it to our DNS zone on Azure Cloud. So let us go to the domain tab. Every provider like GoDaddy or other providers will have similar functions. All you have to do is look for a place where you can add name servers. So name servers. So by default, we are using Namecheap basic DNS. So we can go to custom DNS and whatever Azure has provided us, copy paste them here. Now when somebody type multitutor.ca, here nothing is there. So this portal will tell, okay, you have to go to these addresses and then search. So whenever you create a DNS on whatever you see here, just copy paste. Now you can go to records and now you can click on add. The name doesn't have to match the VM's name, but the IP address has to be matching. Otherwise, it will not reach there, right? So this IP address you can copy paste. And if you are doing it on directly on Namecheap or GoDaddy or someplace, you will copy paste this IP addresses and paste it there. But in reality, there will be a lot of different layers of security also. You'll not be directly accessing a virtual machine, even though that is possible. There could be load balancers or firewalls. So let us click on add. And now we have a error code here. Public DNS, it is spread across the globe, right? So it could take some time for reaching us. So it is called a propagation delay. So if you search for what is DNS propagation delay, you can read more about it. So it could be 24 to 48 hours even. Once that is done, all these forwarding will happen properly. Okay, we don't want to extend our session for 48 hours. So that is why that is one of the assignments. So this is how we create public DNS and then whatever you saw here, right? All of these things you can configure. Understanding about the DNS will help you work with public DNS on Azure Cloud or AWS Cloud or any cloud for that matter. Okay, let me quickly show you the related lab and assignment also. This assignment, research, etc. are new types of lab documents where assignment means, so whatever we saw, right, creating the prerequisites or going to and creating the DNS zone, all of these things are there in the lab record. So all the theory, explanation, everything are there. So assignment is important. So assignment, so one is testing an end-to-end web server, like hosting a basic web server. For setting up a basic web server, you can refer to the recipe from module 8, virtual machines, setting up IA server on Windows VM on Azure Cloud. So if you come here, all the steps are there. Just follow, opening the port, server manager, everything is there. You just follow and then it will be done. And then what you have to do, you have to verify the access before even working with DNS and all, verify the access. Then you have to configure DNS and then whatever domain name you have, connect it and then make sure it work. Okay, and if you have any doubts, if you are a Forum CA student, you can ask in the Forum CA group and then an admin, me or one of the other Forum CA trainers or admins will join our Zoom meeting and help you. If you are not part of Forum CA, you can ask in our Azure Cloud group, either in LinkedIn or Facebook, and the team will help you in the best way they can, or even other students can also help each other. So okay, so This is the assignment. And then research means you could do a lot of other things like implementing HTTPS or doing for Azure App Services, using a front door, or lot of things you can do and experiment in addition. And if you have any challenges, team is always ready to help you in the earlier mentioned channels. Okay, so do this assignment. It could take time for DNS propagation. So let us go back to Azure portal. Now what we have to do, so we can go to one of our VMs. Let us see if our Bastion deployment is done. Okay, it is done. So we can try using Bastion. We can also use RDP since we have opened RDP port. We have logged in. Let us use PowerShell, run as administrator so that we can run things. So this is the first VM, which is our second VM. What is the name of our second VM? So you can copy paste the name, and we haven't given any domain name, right? So that is where we can create a private DNS zone. So private DNS zones is similar to public DNS zones. You can click on create subscription and resource group name. You can either give the same name like buddytutor.ca, but try not to give something that you don't own. Actually, technically, you can give anything. You can give google.com or any domain that you don't own because this is internal, right? But it is always advice to give something that you own. And to avoid any naming conflicts and to keep things local, you can give extensions like internal or local. It does not matter whatever you give here. Okay, let us keep it internal for now, and we'll not do anything right now. We'll be doing all of these things later. Review plus create. So what is our private domain name? It is buddytutor dot internal, right? Okay, deployment is in progress. So let us come here. We can simply try something like ns lookup. What was the name of our second VM? It was prod eus VM2, right? So you can type prod eus VM2 dot buddy tutor dot internal. So nothing is configured yet. We have just created a private DNS zone, but we haven't added any VMs to it, right? So let us go back. So our private DNS zone is created. Okay, we have created our private DNS zone. So here, do you see any name servers? No, because so this is internal, right? So internal means there won't be any name servers that your domain provider can connect to. But otherwise, record sets, it is there. So you can add record sets similar to how we did for our virtual machine. So you can add a record set, say test VM 02 or whatever VM name we want to give. But there is a easier way. Watch here. So there are no other record sets. So you can go to virtual network links and add a link and give a name. And then select that virtual network and enable auto registration and click on create. This is also completed. See, new records have come up. Okay, so these are our VMs. Okay, so this additional VMs, whatever you see here, can you make a guess? What are these? In our lab recipes, you may not see these, but can you make a guess? What are these additional things? What is a subnet that using this IP address 10.0.1.4? So if you go to virtual networks, you have to always make a guess. Let it be right or wrong. And if you don't know, just type D. Okay. So if you come to our virtual network and go to subnets, there is this Bastion subnet. So internally, Bastion has created two virtual machines. Our concern is the first two. So these two now have a record in record set. So now let us try to run our previous command again. See, so it has returned the IP address of the second VM. So it is working perfectly fine. So earlier it was failing because nothing was happening. Here we have got back the IP address. Okay, there is a question. Tell me about Bastion. So the concept is called as Bastion or Jump host or Jump server. Whenever you have a virtual network, so if you look into different VMs, so these VMs will have public IP. But consider a scenario where you have a web server and a database server. So web server need a public IP address because when somebody is requesting a web page, that somebody, if they are requesting from the internet, they have to see that web page, right? So that web server need a internet access. And what about the database server? So the database server is only access from the web server. So by default, does the database server need internet access? Yes or no? No. In that case, you will not give a public IP. So if you don't have a public IP, how can you do some updates on that server? Because without a public IP, you cannot do the native RDP, right? And that is where Bastion helps. So with Bastion, Azure will deploy, as we saw, right, a couple of virtual machines within the same VNet. So we will be logging into that machine, and from that virtual machine, we will be logging into our database server. So you can create your own virtual machine and configure it as a Bastion or a Jump host. But here, Azure is providing it as a service so that whenever you are logging in, all those behind the scenes things are abstracted away from you and you directly log into that machine. So here I have logged in through the browser without using any RDP client or anything, right? So that is because we have used the Bastion service from Azure. But you can create your own virtual machine and do the same. Okay, but then it will be more steps. But remember, Bastion is little bit costlier. So if you are doing it in lab, you have to make sure you shut it down or just use RDP for the labs. But I wanted to show all the options we have. You can come here and you can add your own records. For example, you can click on add. You can copy paste its private IP and name you can give anything, second VM. Okay, so you just give second VM, whatever name you want, you can give and click on add. Now we have one more. So here, if you see auto registered false means we have manually added this record, just like how we did in public DNS zones. But all the others are automatically added by Azure Cloud. So what will happen if I go and delete this virtual network link? What will happen to the record sets? Will it stay or will it go? Will some of them go? None of them go? Okay, auto records will be deleted. So let us try that. So I can come here. I can click on this one and click on delete. Live demo, sometimes it takes time, but don't worry. The recording, I will make it clean. So that is why processing recording takes a little bit of time because sometimes a 2 hour recording just becomes 45 minutes when all the extra things are removed. That is like saving more than an hour for you, right? Every time you rewatch the recording, you are saving 1 hour of your time. So see, everything that was auto created is gone now. Okay, so now let us get back to the lab documents. Somebody asked about setting up IIS, right? So if you follow this document, you can easily set up. The only thing is you have to open a port 80 if you need to reach from outside. So all the steps are there. You just have to follow it. Okay, so creating a private DNS zone. So lab is there. Whatever we did, you can follow it and do it. There are some assignments here, like linking a virtual network to multiple private DNS zones, enabling name resolution across the peered VNets using private DNS, configuring DNS resolution across unpeered VNets using private DNS. And if you are stuck, you can ask for help, and then team will help you out. And coming back to the creating our own records part, there is a detailed lab for that as well. And the question is, what will happen if we have both and auto registration, both manual records and auto registration? To check the understanding, let us quickly go through some questions. So this is the final part of the session. I need all of you to answer these questions or try to answer these questions. Consider two virtual machines in the same VNet named as test VM1 and test VM2. VMs are currently in stopped state. In our private DNS zone, add records with names as test VM1 and test VM02 as shown below. Now add a virtual network link to the VNet where these VMs are present and add auto registration. What records will be created? So here nothing will happen. Okay, so here no records are created as VMs are in stop state. So whenever VMs are in a stop state, they are in a deallocated state. That means no IP address is actually associated with those VMs. So if IP address is not allocated to those VMs, how can you add a record? You can make sure the same IP address is allocated to that VM again by making it as a static IP address. But Azure considers the factor that, okay, whenever it is stopped, it is deallocated, and hence, if the VM is stopped, Azure is not going to add a record for it. So no records are created. That is the answer. So now check this question. Consider two VMs in the same VNet named as test VM1 and test VM2. Same scenario. VMs are currently in stop state. In our private DNS zone, add records named as test VM1 and test VM02. Now add a virtual network link with auto registration and start the VMs. Now what all records will be created? How many new records will be created in this case? Give a number. Okay, I agree. One new record will be created. And what will be the name of that one new record? Okay, it is test VM2. So if we come here, test VM2 is created through auto registration.
That was my doubt actually. Like, how come it? I thought that it will create two.
What will be the default name that Azure can create? It will be same as the VM name. So what are our VM names here? It is same in all recipes. It is test
Yes,
VM1,
VM1 and
test VM2.
VM2.
So
Yeah.
Azure will try to create both of them. Azure will
Yes.
first try to create test VM1, but it is already existing. You cannot have two records with the same name in any DNS zone. Let be public,
Okay.
private, or even in the Namecheap DNS zone.
Okay.
So since test VM1 is already being created by us manually, Azure will not create it again.
Okay.
And what about test VM2? We have not created test VM2. We have created test VM02, which is different from the
Okay.
default one that Azure is going to create. So Azure will create the
Test VM2
one with
only,
test
not
VM.
02.
Yeah, because
Okay,
Azure
okay.
will
I
always
got
create
confused
directly.
on 02 and 2. Okay, okay.
Okay, Azure will always create based on whatever names.
Okay.
Okay, Hussein, is it clear? I think I have unmuted you as well. If you want, you can talk. The question is how IP will be allocated. Usually, how it happens is few IP addresses, five of them, 0, 1, 2, 3, and the last one are reserved. So IP address allocation starts from 4. So 10.0.0.4. So there is a question test CM02 and test VM2. These are not two VMs. These are just records in record set. You can have any number of records pointing to the same VM. There are only two VMs here, test VM1 and test VM2. For test VM1, there is only one record. For test VM2, there are two records. Okay, record means it is just a pointer or a alias, right? So you can, even if you type test VM02, it will go to this same VM. Even if you type test VM2, it will go to this VM. I can give any name.
So, Hatin, one question arises here.
Yeah.
So consider if we have not created that test VM1 also, so it automatically the system will be creating test VM01 as well, correct?
No, no, not 01, only one. Whatever
Sorry,
is the,
one. So yeah,
yes,
got your one.
yes.
One. And here that though we have not created test, you have not you by manually we have created test VM02, correct? That record.
Yeah.
So it checked whether it is present or not, but it will resists the test VM2 only, not
Yeah,
zero
because
two.
it does
Zero two is created
Ash-
manually by
yeah,
us only.
yeah. Azure does not worry about whatever you have created manually.
Okay,
The
okay,
only thing Azure will check is I am going to create test VM1. Is there anything with the same name present there or not? If it
okay.
is there, it will skip. If it is not there, it will create. Azure do not even check for test VM02. Azure will only
Yes.
check is there something called test VM2 there? Yes, then I will not create. No, I will create. And you can have
So
any number
example,
of records pointing to the same VM.
yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Now I got it. Like even if we have created like 0304, that doesn't mean that Azure will check. It will
Yeah,
only check
yeah.
that
Whatever
two
VMs are
original
present,
two waves. Yeah.
yeah, whatever VMs are present, it will iterate through the running VMs and then it will do. So there is a question if we stop the VM multiple times and start again, every time new record will be created. Yeah, that is what we are going to see in the rest of the questions. Okay, so now consider two VMs in the same VNet. Again, same scenario, auto registration, no new records are created. Okay, so what will happen if I delete test VM1? So this is the original scenario, right? I have created two records manually and auto registration is present. The VMs are currently in stopped state. So if the VMs are in stopped state, will it create new records? No. We saw in question 1, right? Since the VMs are in stop state, new records are not created. And in that situation, if I delete this VM1, what will happen? Nothing will happen because the VMs are in stopped state. So no records are created. When the respective VMs are started, then Azure will check. So whenever this VM1 is started, then Azure will check whether it has a record available. If not, it will create. So only when a VM is started, it will check whether that VM has a record available with the VM name. If record is available, Azure will skip auto registration. If record is not available, Azure will create. So now what will happen if you delete record for test VM02? What will happen if I delete test VM02? Again, nothing will happen. by default because VMs are in a stopped state. And when I restart VM2, test VM2 is created. Okay, so whenever the VM is started, that time it will check if a record is available with the VM name. If not, it will create. So that is the behavior of auto registration. Another variation of the question, consider two VMs, test VM1 and test VM2. VMs are currently in. So now we are going from stop state to running state. So there are two VMs, both are in running state, and we have created these records. What will happen when I create a virtual network link with auto registration? Will new records will be created automatically or not? And if yes, what all records will be created? So VMs are already in running state. Everybody try to answer. How many new records will be created? 0 or 1 or 2? Okay. It is one record for VM2. So whenever we are enabling auto registration, Azure will check for all running VMs and then do auto registration. Do auto registration means if something is already existing as part of manual registration, then it will skip auto registration. If not, it will add. So here test VM1 already manual record is there, so it will not do anything. Test VM2 manual record is not there for test VM2. Test VM02 it will not even consider. So it will only check the name. It will not check the IP address or any other values. So it will just add one more with name as test VM2. So there is a question, do we need to start VMs individually like VM1, VM2? Can't we start one go as we link it? You can definitely do. You can select all the VMs in the VM page and then select start. Okay. So consider two VMs. So here scenario is same. We have two VMs, same two VMs. VMs are in running state, and we have two records, same two records that we always add. We have created auto registration, and as we saw in the previous one, the record is created for VM with test VM2. And what will happen if I delete the record for test VM1? So here I have this setup. So this setup you already know. Auto registration is enabled and test VM2 is created. Till then you remember, right? And what will happen if I delete this test VM1? Will it create a test VM1 or not? The answer is, I think only Hussein has mentioned the correct answer. No records are created even if VMs are in running state. Only when the auto registration is created for the first time, it checks for running VM. So when the VMs are started again, it will create missing records with VM name, but not while they are running.
Yeah. So Hatin, you want to say that in the running state, if we want to delete any record, it won't be create, correct?
Yeah, it won't be created.
Okay.
Consider two VMs in the same VNet named as test VM1 and test VM2. VMs are in running state, two records, and a record for test VM2 was created because all of these VMs are in running state. We deleted the record for test VM1, and as we saw previously, no new records were created. What will happen if I restart test VM1? So I deleted the record for test VM1 and I restarted test VM1. What will happen? How many records will be created? 0, 1, 2? Just give a number. Restarting means you are just restarting that VM. You are not going to deallocate the IP address or anything. You are just restarting that VM. And restarting is different from stopping and starting. So here, no records are created. So 0 is the answer. But if you see 8, so here, let me know the answer. What will happen if I, instead of restarting, what will happen if I stop and start the test VM1? How many records will be created? 0, 1, 2. Here, it will be 1. So a new record for test VM1 will be created. There is every time one new record after stop and start? No, because every time you stop, that record will go, delete. And every time you start, it will come back. You cannot have duplicate names here, right? So whenever a VM is started, it will check, is there something with my name there? If it is there, then I will just continue. I will not auto register. If it is not there, then only I will auto register. Clear? Okay, so now another question. Consider the following private DNS record set. Both VMs are in running state. There is a virtual network link with the two VMs, VM1 and VM2. If you delete that VNet link, what will happen to the records below? That we already saw in the lab, right? If you delete the VNet link, what will happen? How many records will be left here? So whatever we do, the SOA record is not going to go anywhere. And our manual VM record will be also there. So if somebody asks you how many records will be left, what will be the answer? So there are 4 records now here. And only 2 are deleted. So what is 4 minus 2?
So here, Hatin, this one also we consider, correct? That the rates were.
Yeah. So that is also a record. So when you are asked in certification exam, record
Oh,
means whatever you see here.
okay. Sorry for that. So
Okay.
this
So until
zero
now,
two
I was
and
only
this
asking
one
how
we
many
left.
new records will be created, right? So
Okay.
now this time question was how many records will be remaining. So consider the following private DNS record set. Both VMs are in running state. There is a virtual network link that is present that contains 2 VMs, test VM1 and test VM2. If we and then we have this setup, right? So whatever we see here, we have this setup. If we stop both VMs, what will happen to the records below? How many records will be left? Just give a number in the chat. Last question, so everybody has to answer. How many records will be left? I have not deleted the virtual network link. I just stopped VMs. I'll just add here. Note that I have not deleted the virtual network link. So how many records will be left? So the answer will be, see, sometimes small things can make a difference. Small things can make a difference. And sometimes those small things will be there in your certification exam just to confuse you. Okay, it does not make any difference. The answer is 2. Okay, so whenever you stop VMs, they are deallocated. Deallocated means they are not allocated to those IP addresses. So how can private DNS still connect those VMs to those IP addresses? So whenever you are stopping a VM, this will go away. Whenever you are starting a VM, it will come back. So this I have tried to consider all possible options here. So this is what I'm trying to do with labs now, because we want to always improve our labs to make it more and more useful, because there is a dedicated team to support you, and whenever you don't need support, they don't want to just wait for somebody to ask questions. They will continue to improve the recipes. Okay, so with the scenario based questions, we'll be adding more and more. Yesterday, there were only 6 to 7 questions, right? So today we have 10. So whenever somebody asks a doubt, we see that, okay, a new scenario can be added, we'll add. So if you follow the labs, practice them, go through the scenario questions, go through the interview questions, then not just be preparing for interviews or certification, your understanding will be much, much more better. So if you are part of buddytutor.com, you can log in and in your forums here product, you will find all of these labs. Or if somebody else wants to download it, you can download from this. So this is specific to each module. So we can come here, and then if you are attending the session for a limited time, you can use this coupon because it's a DNS session. So it's at DNS 20. Okay, so you can use that for any of the labs here. Okay, so it will be available for 7 days from now. If you are part of the Forum CA product, you can just download it from there. You can read about Forum CA here. And if you are not part of anything and just want to attend whenever we have a session available for everybody, you just have to come to the buddytutor.com, scroll down, and subscribe to the free Buddy Skills newsletter. You just enroll the information, click on sign up, and you will get a confirmation email. Check spams also, and then make sure you verify your email so that you will continue to get invites to any free sessions. Yeah.
Yeah. Hatin, it's a thing like whatever you today you explained, I got understood and I got a bit of it. But the thing is that I just want to know like these sessions and the sessions before that. Correct. Like the day you started. Why I'm asking, when you created new domain namespace and no domain name system we are creating. Before creating, we are doing some prerequisites, correct? Like giving virtual VM names, creating virtual machines, correct? You got
Yeah.
my point? So these things also I need to get into it, correct? Though I am
Yeah, so
understanding
you'll
that.
have access because that is why, like once you because creating VMs, I showed you today in the lab, so it was not a prerequisite.
Yeah, yeah,
I
okay.
I showed every prerequisite in today's session, and all you have to do is you have to go to respective labs and then you can practice it. So that is why I try to take care of all the prerequisites like we will be doing it in those classes. So if you look into any lab, for example this lab, the exact name and code of the recipe will be mentioned or the steps will be provided here. So you have to go to creating an Azure virtual machine to, so I have showed you today, but again, if and as part of the lab also it is there. But if you want to dig deeper, you can
Mm.
go to that particular module. This will be module 8 virtual machines, and then the same lab will be available there. So this is
Module.
only for doing today's lab. But for to master or learn virtual machine, there are a lot more things like availability options and others, right? So that we will come to virtual machines sessions, and then you will be able to follow them. So if somebody wants to not wait for the session, there are recordings, but I would suggest if you have time, wait for those sessions and then learn.
No, no. My question was that I just want to start from the first. For example, it's okay. Like you are taking up the session and I'll be joining every sessions you are taking up. That's okay. From the day when I started the prerequisites, for example, I completed. In there, I have some doubt in storages and all. After that, in the from the first of module one, you have there is identities and how to create virtual machines. Those things are there, correct?
No, no,
Identities
no,
in
no, no,
module
no,
one, two, and
no,
three.
no. Virtual
Identity.
machines are part of module 8. So
Okay.
Azure does not follow a ordered sequence. So that is why
Okay.
I mentioned. So virtual
Uh,
machines will come later in the Azure
okay.
syllabus. It is part of module 8. Azure Administration AZ104 doesn't follow a like after module 1 you have to go to module 2. You can successfully go to module 3. You can successfully go to module 4. So this is
Okay.
networking is module 4, 5, 6. But virtual machines are part of module 8. So that is why you need to have some familiarity with the virtual machines. That is why I ask people to go through the prerequisite videos so that even if it is in module 8, you'll have some familiarity with those concepts. So here, if you have some familiarity, then you will be able to create a virtual machine just enough
Mhm.
to, because here you don't have to do any specific configuration here for working with virtual networks, other than the fact that you need to select the right virtual network. So that knowledge from these sessions, and if you look into the labs, it will be clear. So if you look into module 8, there are a lot of labs, but only creating a virtual machine or RDP or setting up IAS server. So those simple things you'll have to look into now, whatever is mentioned there as part of assignment or syllabus. But otherwise, rest of the things we have been learned yet. Some people start with module 7, some people start with module 8. If you are somebody who started the course with module 8, they will be aware about all of these now.
Okay.
But if somebody who started from module 1 or module 4, they will not have any clue about rest of the things. That they will learn when they come to module 8. Because this is for somebody who has working experience with Azure Cloud. So our working experience means you are aware about all of these things. So that is why Microsoft gives a prerequisite for module 4 from module 8. So it does not matter what you follow. So if you start from module 4, you end with module 3. If you start with module 7, I think many of the people have started from module 7, they end with module 6. There is no stopping there. You can attend up to 3 or 4 batches because you have access for 1 year. So again, if you are not clear, you can attend future sessions also.
So
So whenever,
Hartin, now
yeah,
we are now you are starting now this is the part of module 7, correct?
no, no, this is part of module 4.
Okay.
DNS
If
is
it's
part of
module
module 4.
so module 4 means section 2 we started.
Yeah.
So do we have any other like in module 4, is this the first part we are starting on, or else before that any video like any classes you have taken?
So
If
yeah, whatever is there in the portal.
yeah, that I
So
am not able to find. Can I
yeah,
show me please?
you can. So there should be something called as pre-watch. Pre-watch means you can always watch before
Oh,
a session, and there will be
okay.
something called as interactive session. Interactive session means that happened at least once in the past. So you see that if you are in a hurry, you can watch that. You can practice the recordings on your own, and then because most important factor of our course is not the sessions, because sessions mostly it is Microsoft syllabus. So any Microsoft certified trainer, any trainer, the sessions will be similar. But here the difference is the labs you practice and the support you get all throughout the week.
Yeah.
Sessions, sometimes you can watch live or sometimes you can watch recording. And even within module 4, sometimes a particular topic may not need any other module for knowledge. So whatever is needed for a session, we usually mention as a prerequisite. And if you want to go faster, that is also possible. Just watch the recording and ask us doubts, and we will help you out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Those were my questions actually.
Yeah. So
Like how
whatever you see
to.
that interactive sessions, that
So
means
this
it.
video, this session videos also will be getting uploaded, correct?
Yes. Yes. It'll take little bit of time for upload. So because
Yeah.
we edit it, the reason is because normally most of the courses they just like upload unedited courses, because I've seen many course providers do that. The problem is whenever you are seriously learning, each video will be 2 to 4 hours
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
in
Got,
length,
got your
uh,
point. Yeah.
and you'll have to forward. But here, whatever extra things that are not needed, a deployment takes 10 minutes. Why do we have to
Oh,
wait for those 10 minutes? So we
yes.
edit
Yes. Got
each and everything so that the recording will be short and only what is needed for you to learn.
specific.
So
Yeah.
every hour or every minute saved of you is very important, because we are all current or future billable people, right? So every minute is important.
Yeah. Yeah.
assuming there are no more questions, let us wind up and see you all in next class. So if you have any doubts at all, just contact me. And if you're not part of Forum CA group or any group, just go to codingarchitect.ca/contact and you can reach me over LinkedIn or even WhatsApp. Bye bye for now and see you all in next class.
Sure. Bye. Take care.
Thank you.